I came to America chasing work, not love. But beneath the California sun, between rows of lettuce and sweat-drenched soil, I found both. I also found betrayal so deep it could turn a lover into a killer. This is the story of how one woman's heart survived the harvest of love, lust, and lies. Hey, everyone! You're welcome to my channel. If you like our stories and similar infidelity stories, consider subscribing to our channel so as to get notifications anytime we post our stories. Thank you. My name is Abigail. I came to the United States with nothing but a bag of clothes, my father's worn-out hat, and a heart full of hope. I left behind the dusty fields of Michoacan, where the sun kissed the soil and burned our backs. I was raised among corn rows and chickens, learning to rise before the roosters and work until the stars lit up the sky again. When I got my papers and crossed the border legally to work the land in California, I thought I was just chasing money. Turns out I was chasing love too, though I didn't know it yet. The farm where I found work smelled like wet earth and alfalfa. Rows of lettuce stretched farther than the eye could see. My hands, rough as tree bark, were used to this kind of life. But it was in that field that I met him, Hayden. A tall, tanned white man with golden hair and a slow smile. He wasn't just handsome, he was kind in a quiet way. He'd bring me water on hot days, share his lunch even when he barely had enough, and once, when a foreman shouted at me for no reason, Hayden stood in front of me and told him off like I was somebody worth protecting. We were both poor, but we didn't feel it. At night, we'd sit on the porch of our tiny rented trailer, drinking cheap beer and watching the moon rise over the avocado trees. He said he liked the way I braided my hair, called me Abby like it was his private nickname. I never thought a man like that would love a woman like me. Brown, worn from the sun, not educated, not polished. But he did. Or, at least I thought he did. We got married one spring morning, surrounded by a few friends and a borrowed bouquet. I wore a white dress I found at Goodwill, and he wore jeans and a button-up. We danced barefoot in the dirt. I thought it was the beginning of everything good. But even happiness can have shadows. At first, things were sweet. We worked the same shifts, came home tired and smiling, ate beans and rice and sometimes canned soup. But over time, Hayden started to change. He'd sigh when we kissed, go quiet during intimacy, and sometimes, after we made love, he'd turn to the wall and fall asleep without a word. "Are you happy?" I asked him once, touching his shoulder. He didn't answer for a long while. Then, finally, he said, "Sometimes I wish we tried more things. You know, to keep it exciting." I laughed, nervously. Like what? He didn't answer then either, just shrugged and turned away. A few weeks later, Hayden brought a man home. Antonio. Antonio was lean, brown-skinned, with green eyes that pierced like cactus needles. He had that swagger you only see in men who know women look at them twice. He and Hayden had met at another farm. They talked and laughed like they'd known each other for years. That night, we shared beers again, but there was a tension in the air I couldn't quite name. Then Hayden said the words I'll never forget. "Abby, I want to try something different tonight. I want you to be with both of us." I stared at him like he'd grown a second head. "Excuse me?" I asked, my voice low. He smiled, but it wasn't the soft Hayden smile I knew. It was something harder. "It's just to spice things up. I trust Antonio. I think you'll like it." I wanted to scream, to leave, but something about the way Antonio looked at me made my breath catch. I don't know if it was curiosity, or hunger, or just the feeling of being seen after feeling invisible for so long. I didn't say yes. But I didn't say no either. That night changed everything. The night Antonio first touched me, I thought I would break apart. It wasn't rough or fast like I imagined something like that would be. No. It was slow, dangerously slow, like a match being dragged across stone but not catching until the very end. Hayden watched from the armchair like he was proud of himself, like he had given us a gift. But to me, it didn't feel like a gift. It felt like stepping into a river I didn't know how to swim. Antonio didn't ask questions. He read my body like he'd done it before. His hands knew where to touch, his breath lingered at my ear. It felt wrong, but it also felt alive. I'd never been touched like that before, not even by Hayden, not even in our best moments. And that made me hate myself just a little. Afterward, I sat in the bathroom staring at myself in the mirror. My hair was tangled, my lipstick smeared. I looked like a stranger in my own skin. My reflection didn't ask me any questions, but if it had, I wouldn't have had answers. Why didn't I stop it? Why did I enjoy it? Hayden acted like nothing happened. In fact, he was chipper the next day, whistling while making coffee, even kissed me on the forehead like a proud husband.
"See," he said.
Wasn't that exciting? I wanted to scream, but I didn't.
It didn't end that night.
A week later, Antonio came back. This time, Hayden didn't even stay in the room. He said he had to run an errand and left us alone. Antonio didn't waste time. He knew I wouldn't stop him. That time, I kissed him first. We became something I couldn't name. Not quite lovers. Not quite strangers. He'd come by once or twice a week, and it stopped being about Hayden's fantasies. It became ours. The stolen glances, the quiet conversations under the lemon tree behind our trailer. He told me things Hayden never did. About growing up in Durango, about losing his mother, about how America didn't feel like home no matter how many years you spent here. "I miss the stars," he said once. Back home, they looked brighter, like they were closer to God. We shared more than our bodies. We shared hunger, not just for flesh, but for something deeper, something that felt like freedom. But freedom has a cost. One night, after Antonio left, I found Hayden sitting at the kitchen table in the dark. His cigarette glowed in the shadows like a lighthouse warning of rocks ahead. "How long you been loving him?" he asked. My heart stopped. Don't lie to me, Abby. I stood still, barefoot on the cold linoleum. I didn't mean for it to happen. He let out a long breath, but it did. I nodded, tears stinging my eyes. He laughed bitterly, shaking his head. "I brought him into our bed to fix things, not to lose you." "You didn't lose me," I whispered. His eyes snapped up. "Didn't I?" That night, he didn't sleep beside me. He stayed on the couch. I watched him from the bedroom, wondering what storm was building in that silent, brooding man. Hayden was never violent, never even raised his voice. But silence, when it comes from love betrayed, is more dangerous than rage. A week passed. Then, two. Antonio still came, but something felt off. He said Hayden had started calling him less, that he didn't answer texts. "He okay?" Antonio asked. "I don't know," I admitted. Then I found the receipt. It was in the trash, folded in half. A hardware store in Bakersfield. It listed rat poison, duct tape, a box cutter. My stomach flipped. I asked Hayden about it when he came home. He smiled and said, "I've been having problems with raccoons." But we both knew we didn't have raccoons. That night, I locked the bedroom door for the first time in our marriage, and I slept with a kitchen knife under my pillow. There's a kind of quiet that isn't peace, it's warning. Our house, once filled with laughter and soft country music on the old radio, turned into a tomb. Hayden barely spoke. He'd sit at the table staring into his coffee, like it held answers to questions he never asked me anymore. Antonio stopped visiting after I told him what I found in the trash. He said it was too dangerous. I told him I'd handle it, but even as I said it, my hands trembled. The knife under my pillow became my secret prayer. Each night I lay beside a man who once cradled my body like a treasure. I no longer felt safe. I felt like prey. And yet I stayed. Because I didn't know how to leave. Because part of me still loved who he had been, not who he had become. One night, he came home drunk. I heard the truck pull in, the door slam, his boots scraping against the gravel. I tensed, heart pounding, as he stumbled into the trailer. He stood at the bedroom door, banging on it like a man possessed. "Open it, Abby." I didn't move. "You think you're safe with him?" he slurred.
"He's a dog."
"He'd sleep with your sister if she smiled at him." I stayed silent. "I gave you everything," he roared, and punched the door so hard the frame cracked. I cried silently until the banging stopped, until the trailer fell into that cursed quiet again. The next morning, he acted like nothing happened, made pancakes, said he was sorry about the noise, that he was drunk and didn't mean to scare me. I nodded but said nothing. That day, I called Antonio. "We have to leave," I whispered. "He's going to do something. I feel it." Antonio hesitated. "Where would we go?" "I don't know. Anywhere. I'll leave everything behind." "We can't run forever, Abby." "I'd rather run than be buried." That night, I packed a small bag. I didn't take much, just a change of clothes, my old photo of Mama, and the $500 I'd been saving from picking shifts. I hid the bag under the porch. We agreed Antonio would come for me the next night while Hayden was at his Friday poker game. But Hayden was 2 steps ahead. The next evening, the poker game got canceled. He came home early. I was in the shower when I heard the door creak open. I froze. "Abby," he called softly. "Yes," I said, my voice echoing off the tile. "You going somewhere?" My blood went cold. I stepped out, wrapped in a towel, my heart racing. He was standing in the hallway, holding the small bag I had hidden. The zipper was open. The photo of Mama was halfway out. "Found this," he said. "You hiding things from me now?" "Hayden," I said gently. "Please, just let me go." His eyes darkened. "Go? Go where? With who?" "Hayden." "With Antonio?" "My best friend." He spat the name like poison. "You think he loves you? You think he'd die for you?" I stayed silent. My hands clenched at my sides. "You betrayed me," he said, stepping closer. "You broke us." "No," I said, lifting my chin. "You broke us the day you invited another man into our bed." His hand moved so fast, I didn't see it coming. The slap stung like fire, sent me stumbling back. He grabbed me by the arm. "You think you can just walk away?" he snarled. I screamed. The door burst open. "Antonio!" Hayden turned just in time to catch a punch that sent him crashing into the kitchen table. Plates shattered. I fell to my knees, crying, gasping. "Run, Abby!" Antonio shouted. But I couldn't move. Not until I saw Hayden reach under the sink. I knew what was there. The box cutter. I lunged before he could grab it, wrestling the drawer shut with all my strength. He elbowed me hard in the ribs, but Antonio tackled him, dragging him away from the sink. They struggled, fists flying, blood spattering on the floor like spilled wine. I screamed again, grabbed the phone, and dialed 911. By the time the sheriff arrived, Hayden was unconscious, Antonio bleeding from his brow. And I was no longer the woman who came to America looking only for. The sirens didn't sound like rescue. They sounded like grief. By the time they hauled Hayden out of our trailer in handcuffs, I was wrapped in a wool blanket, sitting on the porch steps, my lips swollen, ribs aching, and soul shattered. Antonio sat beside me, his shirt torn and face bruised, gently holding my hand like it might fall apart if he let go. We didn't speak that night. There was nothing left to say. The sheriff asked me questions. So many questions. I told them the truth. How Hayden had brought Antonio into our bed, how I'd fallen in love, how it all spiraled into something none of us could control. I thought they wouldn't believe me, but they did. The bruises on my face told enough of a story. The shattered plates, the blood on the floor, the rat poison still tucked under the sink. I didn't even know he had hidden it there. Hayden was charged with attempted assault and unlawful possession of a controlled substance. The police said they found other things in the back of his truck, zip ties, a shovel, more poison. That was when I realized he hadn't just wanted to scare us. He wanted to bury us both, like we were weeds in his garden. For days after, I didn't sleep much. I kept thinking about that first day on the farm, how simple everything was, how Hayden smiled at me like I was a sunrise. That man was gone. Maybe he had been gone long before Antonio ever came into our lives. Maybe I had just loved a version of him that never really existed. Antonio stayed with me,
Not because I asked him to.
he just didn't leave. He cooked rice and beans, iced my bruises, whispered, "You're safe now," every time I startled in my sleep. He never tried to touch me again, not in that way. He just held my hand when I needed it. That kind of love, the quiet kind, was what I never knew I needed. But love, like land, has to be replanted after a fire. Weeks passed. I quit the farm job. Too many memories there. Too many faces that whispered. Too many rumors in Spanish and English. I started cleaning houses instead. Quiet work, decent pay, nobody asking questions. One afternoon, Antonio took me to a small patch of land just outside of town. It wasn't much. Just a rectangle of dirt, a broken fence, and some wildflowers growing like they didn't know they weren't supposed to be there. "I've been saving," he said. "We could grow something here. Something real. Beans, corn, squash. Maybe even flowers." I looked at him, my throat tight. "Why?" "Because you deserve to plant something that isn't pain." We spent months clearing that land. It was backbreaking work, but I was used to it. My hands knew the rhythm. Dig, sow, water, wait. It felt like healing. It felt like home. Hayden took a plea deal. 5 years. He wrote me letters from jail. I never opened them. Some seeds aren't meant to grow. As for Antonio and me, we didn't rush. Love, when watered too fast, can drown. We lived simply. We planted our vegetables. We sold at the farmer's market. We laughed again. We danced barefoot under the stars. And sometimes, when the wind blew just right, I'd swear I could hear Mama's voice in it, telling me I'd made it. One night, I sat on the porch, watching the sun dip behind our little field. Antonio brought me a bowl of caldo and sat beside me. "You ever regret any of it?" he asked. I thought about it. About Hayden's first kiss. About the slap. About the blood. About the way Antonio had looked at me, not like a man claiming territory, but like someone discovering it. "I regret the pain," I said, "but not the love." He nodded and kissed my hand. The stars came out one by one. Some people think country girls like me don't know much about the world. But I've lived enough to know this. Love can be born in the hardest soil. You just have to dig deep enough. And sometimes, the flowers that bloom from it, they're worth every thorn. Have you heard of experienced similar story? Let's know how you handled it in the comment section, and don't forget to hit the notification button as us to get notifications anytime we post our stories. Thank you, and see you in my next video.